Hello, and thank you for joining us in this business review. Today we will be reviewing Team Lost for the bronze industry. Participants in this review and culmination work over 8 periods are Bala, Justin, and myself, Chris. I would like to start this presentation by providing an executive summary of our performance and brands. The SPI shows a direct correlation not only to our performance, but our underlying decisions around brand targeting and development. As evident, there's an upward trend. However, it was only being realized from period 7 onward. Market share was fairly stagnant with little growth, but shows an evolution in alignment with market forecasts towards period 7 and 8. Our firm was evolving in our strategy around each brand and segment, which is expressed in our results period over period. Revenue increased and was positive. However, SPI and overall performance impacted our ability to increase our available budget. This put us at a competitive disadvantage against others, providing less advertising research and less commercial team volume and distribution. Now we dive into brand and segment alignments. Brand Loop. This started as a strong brand with respectable volume, strong position, and brand awareness. There were attributes and values which overlapped with high earners, so there was an investment made in ensuring we had segment awareness in both. As time progressed, we could see the limiting abilities in trying to become a market leader in both segments and migrated our efforts towards professionals. This yielded positive results, but with little budget due to initial poor periods, we had limited investment opportunity and focus shifted to growing segments and product development. Brand Lock. This started as a weak brand with a limited volume, position, and awareness, but the most potential given the market forecast. Attributes and values overlap with shoppers, so there was an investment made in ensuring we had segment awareness in both. As time progressed, we did not see as much increase in brand contribution, so we split Lock off to a Savers-only targeted segment. The end result was positive brand contribution and market share, but only after investing significant budget in advertising, research, and commercial team. The ultimate problem early on with this brand was we waited too long and spent unnecessary effort, budget, and time on developing a new shopper's product. Brand Lorax. This brand was the evolution of the segment alignment and split with Brand Lock to take the Savers and Shoppers segment by storm. It did not produce well and was introduced far too late to make a positive impact. The attributes and values were aligned only with shoppers and utilizing R&D to align the product attributes and appropriate commercial team alignment. We only allowed this brand to remain in play for 2 periods given the limited results and impact our budget trying to push 3 brands with minimal SPI growth. The end result was withdrawing this brand and redistributing budget towards appropriate growing segments such as Savers and also maintaining supporting professional segments as not to abandon steady revenue. Now we dive into brand and segment performance. The values collected are displayed in percentiles. Professionals. As evident in the extracted data, we were able to maintain steady market share for period 0 through 6 with Brand Loop. After redistribution of the budget, we saw a steep decline, 50% market share. This was a strategic decision to focus on the growing Savers segment and our Lock brand. High earners. This segment was not targeted specifically and was a peripheral to professionals with the Loop brand. The steady market share and subsequent revenue was realized through period 0 through 4 with a key change in period 5. In period 5, we shifted away from the dual segment alignment and targeted specific segments per brand. Following that, in periods 7 through 8, we see a complete depletion of the market share as we moved away from this segment. Savers. This segment was primarily targeted by our Lock brand, and we can see steady growth early on through periods 0 through 4. Following this, we had periods 5, which is an overall budget strain, while we introduced a new brand, Lorax. This forced us to redistribute funds towards R&D and subsequent marketing mix. In period 6, we see an increase, which is where we split the alignment and focused Lock on Savers segment only, and as planned, we see an increase in market share. In period 7 through 8, we see a significant positive increase in market share as we quickly saw the value in investing heavily in advertising research and commercial team and abandoning the failing product Lorax. Shoppers. Much like high earners, this was a peripheral segment. In this case, Shoppers was paired with Savers due to the initial attribute and market overlaps. As we can see, there was never a strong market share for firm loss, and as such, in periods 5 and 6, we had determined to introduce a new brand to reap the benefit of investing in one of the market forecast's second highest growing segments. This proved unwise as we had limited budget, late introduction, and less brand awareness, and we performed poorly. we withdrew the brand in the following period, and as indicative of our charted values, we withdrew Lorax and abandoned segment shoppers and targeted our professionals loop and savers lock, pairing, and alignment.
Next, we look at the lessons learned. We will start with the keys to success: brand awareness and purchase intentions. We were successfully able to maintain the brand awareness close to 70% for Loop, and we also increased Lock's brand awareness to 70%, even though we kind of started soft on it. We were substantially able to increase Lock's purchase intentions from 11.5 to 35.8%, which resulted in Lock's revenue increasing from $6 million to $70 million, which is an increase of 1166%. We were constantly researching our competition using the reports like consumer panel, market research, and competitive intelligence. While it helped us in making certain changes, what it also helped us was to reinforce our belief in the product design. We leveraged R&D and semantic skills. We used R&D for designing a competitive product, and also we used it to reduce the production cost for Loop. This resulted in a savings of about $11 million. We leveraged the brand perception and ideal values for customer segments, which helped us redesign Lock, and because of this redesign, we increased the revenue from an average of $13.5 million to $45 and $70 million in subsequent periods. Advertising, media, and research. We saw that every time we do not spend on advertising and research, there was a decrease in revenue. We invested heavily on advertising and research so that we can take the right message to the right audience. We leveraged perceptual objectives and the importance of brand perceptions so that the precision of our advertising was high. Next slide, please. Now let's look at what we would have done differently. Let's start with understanding the impact of perceptual objectives, marketing team, and commercial team. If we had understood this a little better, we would have actually created a more appealing product so that it targets the right consumer segment. We have seen instances when our products were not in line with what the target segment expects. We have also observed that our commercial team was not distributed in the right manner. This would have been better aligned if we had understood the impact better. Long-term strategy. We could have done a better job in laying a long-term strategy for the marketing products. We always felt that we were reacting to period feedback and results rather than being proactive to future market scenario. Choosing the right consumer segments and introducing products at the right time. We focused on professionals and savers and did not focus on the large growing segment shoppers. Professionals, as we all know, was a very attractive segment at the beginning, but it kind of waned as we moved through the periods. We did not focus on shoppers until late in the period, and this resulted in negative growth, or as the other firms had captured the market. We were always finding it very tough to choose between the R&D or the advertising. We were allocated some of the lowest expense budgets because our revenues were not the strongest, and we were constantly challenged between whether we should put the money on R&D to make a better product or advertising to actually sell the product. On the hindsight, we feel that spending lower on advertising cost us dearly in terms of sales. Production control. We always struggled here. We were either too high or too low. We even have to sell some of our stock to a third party, which resulted in a bottom line impact. We feel that we should have used the marketing formula to arrive at the right production volume so that this would have been a right number for us. Next slide, please.
Next, I'll discuss some of our takeaways from the simulation regarding the marketing mix and how best to implement it. First, we'll start with segmentation and targeting. We found segmentation was the basis for the rest of our marketing mix strategy, in that it was nearly impossible to define advertising and promotion, determine product attributes, set pricing, and allocate distribution if we didn't know what customers we were targeting. Once a segment had been defined, we had to take a narrow view of it in order to define the rest of our marketing mix. In other words, when we were primarily targeting professionals, we expected we could also allocate a small amount of our promotional budget towards high earners since they were similarly minded to professionals with the hopes that we could pick up some easy sales. What we learned, though, is that by allowing ourselves to not focus solely on the wants and needs of professionals, we ended up diluting the strategy we had spent so much time putting together to target them. We also found we were more profitable as a market leader for a single segment than we were when we were trying to compete in all segments. At one point in the simulation, we were trying to compete in the low price segment, the moderate price segment, and the high price segment, but we found that the phrase, "you can't be everything to everyone," held true. We ended up being market followers across all segments and price points instead of maximizing profit as a market leader in any of them. Lastly, we found a segment's preferences can and did change over time. Next slide, please. Next, we'll talk about products and price. In order to keep up with those changing consumer preferences within the segments, we had to initiate regular R&D projects to modify our existing products. We could not write out successful product attributes indefinitely. We also found that there were missteps in predicting future consumer preferences. Even after reviewing all of the available market research reports, it was hard to know what consumers would want before they even knew what they would want too. When it came to the pricing part of the marketing mix, we found that it could be both our enemy and our ally. When targeting savers or any price-conscious segment, the goal was to reduce cost and expand our margin as much as possible while also keeping price low. With higher price segments, such as professionals and high earners, we found that price was actually our ally. The reason being that a high price for those segments was indicative of higher quality, and if we had a significantly lower price as compared to our competitors, our product was perceived as inferior in its quality. Next slide, please. Last, we'll discuss place and promotion. When determining the distribution channels for our products, or the place within our marketing mix, we found its success was highly dependent on the three other P's, promotion, product, and price, also being correctly aligned. Even if our product was distributed through the correct channels and was in front of our target consumers, if the three other P's had not promoted a high brand awareness and high purchase intentions, our product would be passed over for our competitors. Next, we found promotion to be one of the most important factors in generating brand awareness and, in turn, market share. Strong promotion spending was a prerequisite to generating high purchase intentions as long as we had aligned our product attributes correctly with the desires of our customers. Lastly, we found that high brand awareness did not directly correlate with high purchase intentions. We found that we could have customers that were very aware of our brand but didn't necessarily want to buy it. We could have customers with high purchase intentions but only a small group of them or low brand awareness. And lastly, we could have a large percentage of customers that were aware and wanted to buy our product, but as mentioned before, if the product was not distributed where our customers shopped, sales would be lost. Next slide, please. This concludes our final presentation for Team Lost. Thanks very much for listening, and have a great rest of your day.